Like, I remember me and three of my boys, we killed a half gallon of Crown Royal on 18 holes. And on 18, my boy drove headfirst the cart into a tree. Literally, like head first. I don't know how he didn't see the tree.
Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience. This is the prelude to the Custys. We've been doing this. This is year 3 for it right now, the Custys panel. I want to let you know that the only reason that we're able to do so many Custys-related shows is because of our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. If you want to support this show and support the Custy Awards and more in-depth coverage into the Custy Awards, and if you want to see more Cust Corners, what you need to do is use the link in the description or just go to Underdog Fantasy right now and use code Mayo, make a deposit. You get a deposit match of up to $100. If you deposit a ton, you get a bonus of up to $250, depending on how much that you end up depositing. But hey, just go put $10 on there. You get a free square, you double your money right away, you're already a winner, and you support the show. UnderdogFantasy.com, code Mayo. Thank you. The panel is unchanged from a year ago. Host of the Fantasy Golf Degenerates on Mayo Media Network, Kenny Kim, is joining us, as is Sportsnet's Aaron Bronsteter, who, did you win MMA Reporter of the Year, or were you just a finalist for MMA Reporter of the Year?
I was just a nominee. I was one of 5 people, I think 5 people nominated for the second straight year. So, we're getting there. We're making strides, Pat. We're making strides. And also, this is, I think, the 3rd year in a row. Is that right, Kenny? 3rd year of us doing this?
I think we've done all 3 years, yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's been awesome.
And it's a good refresher for people because the Custys are coming very soon. So remember to subscribe, rate, and review the audio podcast, sub to Mayo Media Network. Share the show around with the friends because people need to know about the insanity that's been going on over the past 12 months. We already have a big list for the upcoming year, but we still have the Custy Awards to go through when we find out the winners. We need to see what the front runners are here. Maybe we'll even see if we can get someone to put out some odds on some of these, but voting has closed, so it's time to bring in the expert panel, the people that consume the content to talk about it. So award number 1 on the Custys ballot this year was Most Andercursed Miscellaneous Sports. So it could be anything to do with sports. And it wasn't a huge list this year. Did you guys have an early front runner? Kenny, I'll start with you.
I mean, here's the first thing I want to talk about. Like, I looked through all of these. Pat sent them to me this afternoon. I've been looking through them all, and I've been trying to check mark like the ones in each category where I think can win. Literally, I'm checking like eight things in each category. Like, this might be the craziest year Tim has had. And there's some stuff that's missing from here that I remember listening to. So it's definitely been a wild ass year for Tim. But just on this miscellaneous sports, I have 3 checked right now. First one is Purdue. The Boilermakers men's basketball. I guess Tim claimed that Purdue is guaranteed the 2023 national championship. They lost in the first round to a 16 seed. That's pretty bad, right? The next one is Aaron Rodgers. Touting Aaron Rodgers the whole time, how great it's gonna be, and he, of course, 3 minutes into his Jets career, he tears his Achilles. That's hilarious, I must say. But I'm gonna pick this one because I'm a golf guy, right? Basically, Cust ruined this guy's career. Like, we'll probably never ever see him again in golf. Chad Tootin, I think that's how you say his name. Tim said that Shad Tootin looked competent at the Korn Ferry Tour Championship. He then committed an error when placing his ball, costing him what would have been his first ever PGA Tour card. Like, life-changing stuff. And Tim just ruined it for him.
So this one I was in the room for. What happened was we have the big screen of TVs, and when we get to the late set of games for the NFL, we always throw something on. So this happened in September, so we threw the Korn Ferry, we just had Golf Channel on, one of the TVs that wasn't being used, that was purposed earlier for watching some NFL games, and there was only like 4 games in the afternoon slate. So we throw on the Korn Ferry finals, and this Shad Tootin guy is just charging up the leaderboard. It's like, oh, he needs to finish like at X in order to earn his PGA Tour card, Aaron. And Cust was like all in on this guy, and he goes through everything and gets it, and then he like shanked a ball into, I want to say like the high fescue, and he had to take an unplayable, but whatever drop that he made wasn't the right drop, so he was assessed a 2-stroke penalty after the round. So he had his tour card. Cust was cheering for him the whole time, and then he got the tour card ripped away from him. I haven't heard from him since.
Nothing, not a word.
Yeah, see, that's pretty bad because, like, I don't follow golf that much, so I don't really know what goes into getting a PGA Tour card. I imagine there's probably a lot. So I don't know how qualified I am to speak on this particular one. So it didn't really make my cut. Like, for me, I think that the Aaron Rodgers one is like the most Cust of these. Like, it's his team. He says they're going to win a Super Bowl. He's all on the Aaron Rodgers train. A guy who had been calling like overrated for years, of course, when he was with the Packers, goes to the Jets, and now he's like in his prime, of course, at whatever age, 39 or however old Aaron Rodgers now is. And of course, in very typical Cust fashion, basically, you know, the whole Jet season gets derailed in like the first 3 or 4 minutes of the game because of the Andercursed, of course, the famous Andercursed, where he's now, you know, touting the prospects of Aaron Rodgers, you know, taking the Jets to the promised land. However, like, I would say in terms of like a sheer answer, like if we're going to look at all the candidates from top to bottom, I think it has to be Purdue. Like he guarantees Purdue's going to win a national championship, and they lose to a 16 seed. Now, I think I looked up the numbers, and out of like, I think it's 160 total games over since they expanded the field to 64 between the 1s and 16s. A 16 seed has won twice out of like, I think 160, because the numbers would have to be updated from this past March. Like, those are like unheard of numbers. And for
Well,
him to say that,
Aaron, did you know that the last time it happened, he cursed that team also?
well, I mean, that doesn't surprise me. That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, he picked Virginia to win the tournament, and Virginia lost in the first round.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, because like historically, there's only been like a 1% chance of this, like around a 1% chance of this happening. 2 out of nearly 200. Like, if he basically every year, whoever he says is going to win the tournament, like, you may as well just take the 16 seed on the money line. You're going to get like 80-1 or whatever it is, like probably a massive number. Like, you know, if you're going to roll the dice, that's probably the one that you do it on every single year. Because to like curse 2 number 1 seeds, the first of which there had never been a 16 seed that had won, and now, of course, again, after guaranteeing that they were going to win the championship, like, did the year that were their Custys the year that Virginia lost? Was that like, did that win the most Andercursed that year? Do you recall?
I don't think that it did.
Yeah, because like this is pretty unprecedented stuff. Like I used to love the NCAA tournament, and like the 16 seed losing was like a slam dunk every year. Like they were never going to beat the number 1 seed. Now it's like happened twice, both of which were times where Cust has predicted those teams to win. So like we're entering some pretty uncharted territory in terms of like the power of the Andercursed here. So that's why I would go Purdue with my pick.
I can't remember. I think I may have voted for Shad Tootin. I think we nailed down the 3. The other one's like Josh Johnson, when he then predicted that the Niners would win that game against the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl, and Brock Purdy got hurt. Like a second later, Josh Johnson suffered a concussion, and then they had to put Brock Purdy back in with a torn UCL, and he couldn't throw. And then he had to use Christian McCaffrey at quarterback for a while. That was fun. Let's see. The Charles Leclerc one, that was another one where we had F1 on the side TV, and he was fired up for Leclerc to come in second place to Verstappen, and then he gets DQ'd after the race after Tim was celebrating it all. The Niners are on here twice. So he had the Niners with Josh Johnson. Then he had the Niners again this year when they got out to the hot start. He predicted they would go undefeated for the season. Then they lost their next 3 games. Then he jumped off the bandwagon. They got good again. And then he picks the Mets every year to win the World Series, and they just are horrible every single year. So I think that one's like grandfathered in every single year because he picks the Mets every single year. But I do think it's between Purdue, Aaron Rodgers, and Tootin. If you had to bet, Kenny, which one do you think wins?
I would bet Aaron Rodgers.
I think
just
I would
because
too.
of the whole Jets thing. You know, it's his team, his squad. He was so hyped. And I would have been hyped too, right? Would have been excited having a Hall of Fame quarterback who's a fucking moron, but he's a Hall of Fame quarterback on the team. So I would have been excited like he was. But, you know, Tim usually just goes a little bit overboard when it comes to that aspect of, you know, the Jets. And so that is the one that I would go with because, I mean, it happened literally like 2 minutes into the game. Like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think that anything that has Jets and Cust cursing them next to it, Aaron, I think is going to be the winner.
Yeah, like I think that if you're asking me who I think should win, I would say Purdue. But who will win? Probably Aaron Rodgers. If I was a betting man and you gave me that at like, I don't know, plus 150, I'd probably be taking that.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably even money at best. Although we were talking, you tweeted out before the show that we were doing this, Kenny, and then Cust called himself the favorite in the most insane category, which is something that I had said in, I think it was like January or something like that when voting first opened, and then it went downhill quickly for him.
I'm sure it did.
And if people haven't tuned into it, did you guys watch the debate by chance? The Custys debate, Geoff versus Tim?
Of course, I mean, I wouldn't miss that.
Yeah, I caught some of it, yes.
Yeah, so people can, I mean, it's on demand right now, both on the pod feed and on Mayo Media Network. If you have not watched that, Tim comes out with a strong 10 minutes, and then he ate his pizza like a psychopath.
I do remember that, yes. He eats a lot of things like a psychopath. We'll get to that later, probably.
Yeah, I think doing the eating segments on the show has been just it's been a great notch for the show, a reason to tune in to Sunday night recaps, but I don't think it really helped him at all. So we're moving on to most Andercursed non-sports. Not a big category this year, but a strong category. Hard to pick a winner. I know what my favorite is, but we'll go here. Matthew Perry is nominee number 1. Despite often voicing his distaste for the show Friends, Tim was watching reruns of Friends and remarked how the characters of Rachel and Chandler were funnier than he remembered. Matthew Perry, who played Chandler, died 1 day later. And that would be number 1.
Really, a day?
A day.
It was the next day?
It was.
Oh, my God.
I'm glad Jennifer Aniston's still with us. I mean, I'm watching that morning show right now, and I don't want that to fall apart.
That show is so bad. It's incredible.
I don't mind it.
It's so bad. Like, it's very watchably bad. It's a lot like that show, The Newsroom, which was also really
the
bad.
Newsroom that Sorkin did.
Yeah,
that show was also pretty bad.
But it was
I
watchable.
love The Newsroom. It's like one of my favorite shows of all time.
But it's really
it's
shitty.
just nowhere near as good as The West Wing. Like, The West Wing was way better than The Newsroom.
It's nowhere as good as Lotteria Loca, which is the next nominee right now, which was a game show on CBS modeled after the Mexican game of Loteria. Lotteria Loca was claimed by Tim to, quote, look good. Soon after the show was pulled from the air and production was canceled. He still has them on his DVR and has never watched an episode. There's only 4 episodes, I think.
He does cancel a lot of shows.
Yeah,
he did that with the radio show a few years ago, right?
Yeah.
Actually, the whole radio station, right? So he has some experience in canceling entire networks and shows.
I didn't even know this one. Shane McGowan, the lead singer of the Pogues. Tim killed him by listening to their music. I don't even know who this band is, but apparently he killed the lead singer.
I mean, the Pogues are an awesome band. We'll get to that when we get through the last nominee.
Yeah. M-Power air fryers. Tim finally received an air fryer after multiple weeks of eating air fryer food on the Sunday recap show. Soon after, M-Power air fryers announced a mass recall of their products. It's not.
So the funny thing is, I was listening to some old Cust Corners earlier today, and we were talking about this was pre Tim trying an air fryer. And Geoff said, minus 170 that he becomes like an air fryer connoisseur within the next 3 months. And it's definitely happened, right? Tim owns one now, correct?
Yeah. That one was like the most slam dunk. As soon as Cust was going to try the air fryer, like this was like a product that's tailor made for his exact things that he loves, which is like saving time, fast food, frozen food. Like it's all stuff that he loves. And as somebody who was eventually sold on the air fryer myself, like I was thinking like it's an absolute slam dunk that he's going to love this thing as soon as he gets a chance to try it, because it's exactly the things that he loves all in like one small device.
The best air fryer thing that we made him all year, outside of the Pogos, which he ate sideways like a piece of corn on the cob. That was the show with you, wasn't it, Kenny?
It was me. I was on there. I was like, I was just shook. I was shook. I looked over and I was like, oh my God, what are you doing, Tim? What are you doing? It was crazy.
There it is on the screen right now. I monitor the live chat as we're doing that live show, and it was the first time I can ever recall that the chat like exploded. Like all at one time with like 70 messages
what's he doing?
all at once. Like, well, what's going on here? Why is no one commenting on this? But I made him
I still can't get over it. Go ahead, Aaron.
I was gonna say I made him kale chips one time, and like the revelation he had about kale chips in the air fryer. Like, has anyone ever heard of these before? Does anyone ever eat these? Like, Tim, you're behind the times. Like 15 years on what people quote. It's not even like healthy food. It's just it's kale dosed in salt. So it's not even about as healthy as you can get. But for Tim, I think that really hit the peak of health.
What the corn dog thing reminded me of was Tom Hanks in Big, right? Where Tom Hanks, eats the piece of corn like the little corn, like regular corn, except, Tom Hanks in that movie had the mind of an 8-year-old. So that would be the main difference between the two.
Well, we've been working on this theory now, Bronsteter, that Cust has the dietary needs of someone who is between the ages of 5 and 9 or 70 to 100. There's no in between.
Yeah, he's got like the least refined food tastes of anybody that I've heard talk that's of that age. Like, and I worked with Cam Stewart for several years, so I mean, like that kind of says something. Yeah, and the corn dog thing like rattled me. I just like if you gave a child, like if we're talking about the age of like 4 to 8, if you gave a child a corn dog, none of them would default to eat it the way that he does. Like you wouldn't need to teach them the right way to eat it. None of them would default. Like I just couldn't believe it.
What do you think is the favorite? If we were to do the betting favorite for this category, it's got to be air fryers because it's so linked with him, doesn't it?
That's what I would think, but yeah, but personally for me, it's got to be like him murdering somebody. Anytime Tim murders somebody, which he does basically once or twice a year, he murders somebody, and usually in that case, I usually go with the murder as my top pick.
Yeah, see, this one angers me like viscerally because like. We talked about that radio station before that Tim had gotten canceled. Like he like enjoys like MOR music, like middle of the road music you would call it. Like he likes like Matchbox 20 and like very like I guess like customer friendly music.
How about you just say what you really want to say, Aaron?
Yeah, he likes like schlock. He likes middle of the road schlock. So I mean, like the Pogues are good, like kind of like Irish barroom punk music, and I had heard him talk about listening to the Pogues, and then like Shane MacGowan died, and like Tim needs to stay in his lane and just keep listening to bad music so that he can like the Shane MacGowans of the world can thrive and live long lives. So I would just hope that Cust continues to listen to like more MOR and go back to that rather than like mess with the musicians that you would find in my record collection here. I think that would be for the best for everybody.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah,
I thought he was talking. I thought. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Pat.
He knocked off Meatloaf a few years ago.
Yeah,
and Angela Lansbury.
That's true.
Yeah,
Meatloaf's kind of MOR. Like, not that I don't think that Meatloaf has some good music, but like he should stick with the MOR. Like he should leave the Pogues and other like good punk bands alone. I don't think that one will win. Like the Air Fryers is probably going to win, but that's the one that like made me the angriest of probably any nominee that we have on the show today that we're going to be discussing.
Interesting. Okay, so we got most reverse cursed up next as a primer for this. So you had to see it to believe it, and it never really translated on the show. But when we were watching football and we were bombarded with NCIS Sydney ads over and over for every commercial break, and they would do the one that was upside down because it's down under. Like he would just lose his mind while we were watching football. Like if he saw it on, because we have 8 TVs going at once. Like sometimes it'd be on 3 TVs at once because 3 games are on commercial on CBS. So Tim claimed it was unfathomable to him that anyone would want to watch NCIS Sydney. And then NCIS Sydney set records for streaming numbers on Paramount Plus and became one of like the highest rated both critically and viewed shows of the new season on CBS, which I would never have predicted, Kenny. Do you watch NCIS Sydney?
I do not watch network TV. I think the only people that watch network TV nowadays are old women and Tim. That's basically what I feel like when it comes to network TV. I do not watch any of it. I do not watch NCIS. I stream everything. And of course, Tim can't do that either. Actually, he just learned with the screen mirroring, which I just listened to that earlier today, which was hilarious. I don't know if that's on any of this, but that whole segment you guys did where you were just riding along like you didn't know what he was really talking about was quite possibly one of the funniest segments that I have heard on the show in so long. It just literally cracked me up. And then Paul coming in later and telling him about how he can get, people can like snoop on him through the screen mirroring. I'm going off topic here, but I literally just listened to this earlier today, and I thought that was hilarious. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff that are not on here that I can go about, but yeah, I don't watch any TV, but I mean, that's definitely, I remember him talking about that immensely, and the guys at NCIS Sydney should probably give him some money.
So are you utilizing the Cust Corner exclusive feed on Spotify or Apple Podcasts to listen to these, or are you just watching on YouTube?
No, I use the feed. I have the Cust Corner feed. I subscribe, make sure you hit subscribe to the Cust Corner feed. It's on there, definitely.
Yeah, Bronsteter, if you ever want to do that, you can just hit the description of this video or podcast and go sub to it right now, completely free.
Well, I mean, that would be sound advice 5 years ago when I did do it. So, I mean, I appreciate that, Pat.
Do you have a favorite in this one? Because there's NCIS, Michael Meyer, Halloween Reese's, the Dolphins offense, and Jalen Waddle are two separate categories, and Keenan Allen.
Like, for me, it's Michael Meyer because it's just, like, first off, people got to win bets off of it, which I think is great. But, like, he's just pulling that name out of nowhere. Like, it was the first name that came to mind. It was almost like a clairvoyant reverse curse. Like, nobody was probably talking about Michael Meyer at all. Like, nobody in fantasy sports that week would have been like, yeah, he's going to have a great week. He's like the secondary receiver of the tight ends on the team. So it's not like he's like a guy that is noted to be, and he just like pulled that name out of thin air. And he got the first touchdown that week, which I think was like paid 24-1 or something. Like, Paul would probably know the answer because if I recall, he bet on it. But like that one shocked me because I usually listen, unfortunately, not live to that because I think that was a missed opportunity on my part, having not listened to it live. Had I listened to it live, I probably would have, taken a flyer on Michael Meyer, and that does rhyme, by the way, in case you weren't paying attention. But I would go with that. Like, I think that one is just because it's just so obscure.
That one was interesting to Paul. If I'm remembering this correctly, that game didn't have a touchdown scored, I think, until late in the fourth quarter. It was like 10-3 or something.
It was the only
only
touchdown scored in that game. And actually, I went to bed because I'm like, nobody's going to score a touchdown. I'm going to lose. It was, pretty late, and the game was so boring. I fell asleep, woke up in the morning. It's just like, I've got an extra $3,000 in here. I just and that was the funny thing. It was early in the year. I think it was 28-1. It was just like, my plan was I'm putting $100 on every single one of these. So it's like literally right out of the gate, there's no way I can lose for the season. There's only 17 weeks of the season. So fading Cust is profitable. I suggest most people do it.
Yeah, that was the biggest one of the year. But I think, Kenny, he had 3 of them this year of who's not going to score the first touchdown. It was great.
Yeah, I think the best thing about that, there's an extension to this, right? I mean, first off, Michael Meyer didn't score a touchdown all year until that touchdown. I think it was like week 10, week 12.
And did he score again?
Something like that.
I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't score another one the rest of the year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's extended because the Raiders ended up picking another tight end in the first round. So, like, he went. I don't know if that's going against, but whatever. That guy just is sort of screwed now. Even though he helped everybody, Tim went ahead and helped him for a minute, but screwed him at the end. It was sort of like that double thing with Tim, where it came down to it, because he definitely screwed him at the end because he's probably not going to start next year.
Yeah, it was a Sunday night football game against the Jets, which I completely forgot about, and the score was 16-12. And the touchdown came with, it was the first minute of the fourth quarter was the only touchdown that was scored in the game. That's pretty good.
And did he score any other touchdowns the rest of the year? Because we're just talking week 10, right?
Yeah, he scored that in week 10. He scored one in his final game of the season, too, against the Chargers. So he scored against the Jets and Chargers. So start Michael Meyer against, if they play the Bills this year, they can pick on Paul's team, too. If you're associated with this show, Michael Meyer will score touchdowns against your team.
He's like Michael Myers for your team that you have, whoever your team is.
Yeah. What's this one? Halloween Reese's. Tim called any Reese's shapes beyond the standard cup shape, quote, disgusting, and would deter anyone from purchasing them. Reese's were found to be the most popular Halloween candy in the United States of America by People magazine, with their unique shape cited as a significant part of the appeal. I mean, Cust feels to me like someone who reads a lot of People magazine, too.
I have to say the egg Easter Reese's peanut butter cup is by far the best. I don't know what it is about the chocolate to peanut butter ratio in that Easter, egg Reese's peanut butter cup, but it is by far the best.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the one exception for Reese's is the egg, because most of the time they're just kind of making the shaped ones have more chocolate and less peanut butter, and I don't think that's right. That's just not right. But like you said, the Easter eggs, I mean, even the small ones, it's a good ratio in those. I like the texture of it kind of more when it's in an egg shape versus the actual, flying saucer typical Reese, although those are great in their own right.
So those were sort of like the prelims for the categories. We're getting to some real ones here now. Most egregious claim from Tim. So here are the nominees. This is probably one that you were talking about, Kenny, where it's impossible to pick, really. So
I checked every single box in this category.
Determining the favorite in this is going to be tough, but here we go. Two of them are skiing related, and I don't think Cust can ski, which is really weird. Cross-country skiing. Tim claimed he could easily compete in a cross-country skiing event. Survivor pool. Tim claimed as of week 1 of the NFL that he had a 50% chance of having a perfect Survivor season. He lost the next week. Moguls. Tim claimed he could go down the moguls on skis really easily. Tim claimed he could become an astronaut very quickly if given the time to train. Bodybuilder. Tim claimed that given a few months, he could become a bodybuilder and compete in events. Dream home. In a continuous attack on tradespeople, Tim said that he could easily build the drywall and landscaping in his dream home, which apparently only costs like $200,000 according to him. And I think we got a contractor on to give us an assessment based on what Tim said, and he had it valued at around $21 million of what Tim wanted. And that didn't include the land. That was just the furnishings in the house with his ballroom that he will rent out for extra money somehow after he did the drywall in it. Shuttle drill. Tim claimed that he would be, quote, good at running the shuttle drill. After watching his 40 time versus me, maybe not so much. F1 driving. Tim claimed he could easily drive an F1 car if given the opportunity. And then Super Bowl referee. Tim claimed he could easily be a referee during the Super Bowl. That one I actually kind of agree with because NFL refs are terrible and they're all like old and can't move.
Yeah, so this is one of the ones where I said stuff is missing. Right? I don't know. Maybe it wasn't this year. Maybe that's why I'm not seeing it. But when he said that he could take 18 shots of liquor in 18 holes of golf, that one and be fine. Like I'm a seasoned veteran, right? Seasoned. Like you know what I'm saying? I don't even think I could do that. Like I remember me and 3 of my boys, we killed a half gallon of Crown Royal on 18 holes. And on 18, my boy drove headfirst the cart into a tree. Literally, like headfirst. I don't know how he didn't see the tree. It was huge. Drove headfirst into the tree, hit his head on the front of the thing, really messed up his knee. And he's a seasoned veteran too. So if I had my pick, that would win. But since that's not on here, I mean the skiing ones are crazy. Like have you ever watched like a cross-country skiing event in the Olympics? Like the guys, they're covered in like ice from snot and like spit because it's so cardiovascular. Like it's like fucking. It's hard to do, right? And you see him. Tim wouldn't last half a mile doing that. That's the one that is big on me, and of course, Dream Home. Right? You said $21 million for his house. That's what I do for a living. I estimate for construction. We're building a $10 million house right now. It's 25,000 square feet. You need a driveway. Also has 2 pools, indoor, outdoor, a recording studio, tennis courts, 2 garages, and it's only $10 million. And Tim's place is $21 million.
Well, he said that Bronsteter, he wanted his bedroom to be the size of a tennis court.
Yeah, like, I mean, so I went through this today and I kind of like did a little bit of research to see like how hard is it to drive an F1 car? How hard is it to become an astronaut? So like, here's some of the things that I had to kind of look at, which is like the wording of some of these. Like, could he compete in a cross-country skiing event? It's like, what level of a cross-country skiing event are we talking here?
Well,
are we talking about just like...
I don't want to...
Yeah,
I mean, like for 4-year-olds, maybe he might win?
I don't want to cast aspersions here, but you don't see a whole lot of heavy cross-country skiers.
No, I mean, that's fair. But I mean, like, could he compete in some form of cross-country skiing event? Maybe. Like, it's not completely... I wouldn't say it's outrageously egregious. In terms of moguls, they have beginner moguls. So could he maybe do beginner moguls if he got on skis for a little bit and got used to it and got a little bit warm? Maybe. I mean, I don't think it's completely egregious, like unthinkable. It's pretty close. Survivor Pool one kind of got me because I'm like, 50% chance of having a perfect season after week one. That is an egregious claim. Like the percentage is a lot lower than that. Otherwise, everybody would be winning Survivor every year. Like if you hit your first one and now suddenly you got a 50%, like that's a pretty egregious claim. Astronaut's way up there because like I did some research and apparently in like Chris Hadfield's book, he says like, if you want to be an astronaut, you're probably doing it wrong because like the right way to do it is just do some things that are kind of like adjacent to becoming an astronaut. And then like maybe you might be able to one day become an astronaut if you like have all of these different experiences. It was like how to fly like jets and being in the Air Force. Like there's all of these crazy qualifications for people that like want to become an astronaut. So that one like is way up there on the list. And the bodybuilder again, like to become a bodybuilder. I mean, what's the bar? I don't know. Again, there's details that are missing here that would make it completely egregious. The dream home is like not terribly egregious if we're talking about like a standard home. Like if he was doing drywall for like a small home, it would still for Tim would be kind of impossible. For the home that he was explaining, like that raises the level of egregiousness to like really high levels. So that one's pretty high up on my list as well. The shuttle drill, I don't think he'd be any good at it, so it's fairly egregious. F1 driving. So I watched the video and like apparently driving an F1 car is extremely hard.
Yeah.
Like it's really your neck's like going at like 5 Gs in terms of like the torque or something along those lines. So if you like hit the brakes, and the brakes for an F1 car are very different from a regular car, where if you like slam the brakes, the car comes to like an immediate halt and like you just like it jacks your neck. So that one's pretty bad too.
But
the Super Bowl referee, like I said, isn't totally over the top.
Hold on. The F1, there's another part of this too. Tim can't drive a standard or even fathom how to drive a standard. Like
I was going to ask you that.
He doesn't have that sort of coordination. But
Yeah.
I mean, F1 cars don't even have a stick. They have everything done by like the pedals on their steering wheel, which is infinitely harder than driving a standard like just by stick. So he can't do the easy version of it, but driving it in the hard version is no problem. Paul, yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. When you guys go on like road trips with Cust, nobody lets him actually drive because he drives like a grandma.
Oh my god!
As well, right?
He won't turn on the air conditioning because his grandma once told him that it kills his engine or something like that. So it's like a sweat box the entire time in the car, and he drives at least 5 to 10 below the speed limit at all times.
Yeah, old people used to like think that air conditioning would mess with your fuel efficiency. Like there was like I remember like when I started driving, and again, it's probably like 25 years ago, like there was this misnomer with some people that I knew where they were like, if you run the air conditioning, it's gonna like mess with your fuel efficiency, and like I looked it up and that's like not true really. So that's definitely a grandma take that, and we're gonna get to the grandma category later, which I think is a great category. But yeah, like ultimately for me, Survivor Pool is pretty bad. I would go with Astronaut. I think Astronaut is probably the most egregious of these. A lot of egregious claims here in general.
I think
I
it
have
just
a conspiracy theory about Tim's grandmother. Is she really real?
Yeah, it's a psycho situation.
No, like, is she real? Like, is she real? I think Tim uses that maybe as an excuse because he knows what he does is sort of weird. Like, oh, my grandmother told me to do it. I got to do it. I got to listen to grandma.
Pat, you've known him for a
Has
while.
anyone
Have you
ever
met his
seen
grandma?
His grandma?
Yeah, Pat,
Ever?
I'm wondering. Have you met his grandma?
I have
know
not.
Anything about her?
I mean, I have not. I have dropped him off when we were in college. I used to drop him. He used to park his car at her house, and I would drive him from school to there because it was on my way home, and I would park at the school. But I've never actually met her. No.
Did it appear to be a vacant home, or it seemed like it was occupied by somebody?
It seemed like someone lived there.
Was there an old lady that you didn't see her?
No. Like I would just drop him off at the top of the driveway, and I'd take off.
I don't know.
I mean, there's a chance, I suppose. I had never
Conspiracy theory.
I mean, do we have to get...
Maybe Cust can bring her on the show one day.
Maybe.
God, I would
Like
love that.
NFL.
Please, Lord Jesus, happen.
The best was when he claimed that he didn't take naps because his grandma scolded him for taking naps. Is that on here? Is that one of the ones?
No, it's not on there. It's not on there. I would have remembered that.
That's a great one. Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna dive into conspiracies here, we already got the Matthew Perry one. We got a conspiracy about Cust's grandma. Paul, you might need to get Tommy G on the line here and get him on the show. I don't know.
I heard he's like recently retired from this scene, but
yeah,
maybe he'd come back for the right content.
Yeah, he came back for he was retired from conspiracies, then came back from Matthew Perry, and just he dipped his toe in the water, got himself back. I might have to have Tommy on the show soon. He's getting it all back together here. I'd love to have Tommy back. Good character that I used to enjoy having on all the time. So maybe we'll see some Tommy G here in the future. I am gonna say Dream Home. Like just the way that he described the dream home, what he thought it would cost, the things that he wanted in it. Like he was basically building Xanadu, Kenny.
Yeah, I mean that house would be amazing. There's no doubt about it. I mean the house we're building is on like 2 acres of land, and I don't know what he thinks, and to say that he could do the work, that's sort of disrespectful. It really is. Working in the business, I know these guys. They have a lot of skill, like especially. I mean, there's bad guys, there's bad workers, and there's good workers. But when you find a good worker, especially like drywall or something, like the guys charge me like $250 for every 4 linear feet of drywall. So these guys are, it's a trade. They're very, very skilled at what they do, because it's not just putting the drywall up. Then you got to mud the joints. Then you got to sand everything so it's nice and smooth and paintable. If you leave any type of imperfections on there, you'll be able to see it once the paint goes around. It is a skill. And so, yeah, that one does bother me as well.
So if you want to add like another layer of insanity to that whole thing, it's like that was what he wanted to do to cut back on costs. It wasn't like, let's get rid of the ballroom. It was like, I'll just do my own landscaping and like my own drywall. Like it was just like this easy thing that he was going to do in order to save. And like, how much money would you actually save by doing that yourself? You still need to buy all of like the hard materials. Like you still need to buy like the sod for like the lawn and the plants and like the actual materials that construct the drywall. Like none of that was really like a factor for him. It was just like, I'm not willing to salvage like the heated driveways or like the ballroom in order to cut the cost. It was like, I'll just do this work myself. Like it's no problem.
And then he would have to pay to get it all fixed after he tried to do it. There's 2 key elements missing from the whole drywall conversation. I mean, there is just the element that he can't do it because he doesn't know how and doesn't have those skills. But the other 2 things is, because he said he was going to do it by himself, is 1, carrying the sheets of drywall into the house, which he would not be able to do, not strong enough. And 2, scared of being on ladders.
Yeah, all fair points.
Wouldn't work. He'd have to buy like a scissor lift or something, bring it in the house so you can actually feel at least somewhat secure. Have a platform underneath him that he's standing on.
Yeah. Go check out the Dream Home episode. That was a good one. Worst take
was a good one.
Worst take from Tim Andercursed this year. Artificial light versus sunlight. Tim claimed artificial light was better for your brain than sunlight.
Oh my God.
When did he say this? And did we yell at him?
I remember. I don't remember this one. I really want to remember this one. I don't remember.
This is when we asked him why he had a nightlight. And this is what...
I vaguely do remember that episode.
Dining for 2. Tim claimed that any restaurant...
I agree with Tim on this one.
...that explicitly implied that a set of items on its menu is for more than one person is insulting.
I agree with Tim on this one.
Yeah, but you're on a diet now, Kenny. Now you don't have to be insulted.
I am
by
on a diet now. That's true. I would never get that now. But, at that time, I know Tim brought it up one time. I ordered a whole bunch of popcorn shrimp. It was delicious. But it was like the family platter of popcorn shrimp. Or maybe it wasn't popcorn. Maybe it was a regular fried shrimp. But it was like 30, right? And I was like, oh, I'll eat 30 of those by myself. No problem. And I did. In a single sitting.
I also disagree, because I've traveled places with my family before. We've gotten a dine for 2 deal for 5 of us. Because around the road, you split the fries, you cut the burgers in half. Hey, that doesn't necessarily need to be for 2. It can be for 5 as well. So it can go the other way.
They're saying not too much food for you and not enough food for you is where we're...
It's insulting to the cheapskate that you're going to insult our intelligence.
Okay. It just seemed like a very odd thing to be triggered by.
I agree with that.
Fast food menu.
I mean, honestly, I never really thought of it until Tim brought it up.
Yeah, like I'm sure when you got like the mailer that said, you got a coupon, 2 can dine for $14.99 or whatever it is, you weren't like, I'm offended by this. This is the amount of food that I would eat. You just be like,
awesome.
Coupons, yeah, well, that's great.
Dinner for me.
Yeah.
Fast food minus food. Tim claimed he would appreciate locations that would give the fast food experience, but without serving the food.
This was the same episode where he tried to sell a bar without booze, right? I think this was the same episode where he was trying to sell that. It's so wild. I mean, like, I don't understand. I don't understand.
I remember this episode, but I don't remember what he was talking about. Like, when I saw this today, I was like, what is the fast food experience when there's no food involved? Like, what does that mean? Does that mean like you go and you can sit down as like a diner, but there's like no, like, how's the money get made there? Like, what's the business model here? Like I just don't remember. I remember at the time listening to it, thinking it was egregious, but I just don't remember what exactly the take was.
That's the take. It doesn't make money. It's there for Tim to go and to sit in an empty Wendy's.
Yeah, so like that's what he was talking about. It's like the fast food experience is you go into like a restaurant and you sit down with your friends and you just sit and chat with them. So like, isn't that like a park? Like I don't understand still.
What makes it crazier is that he admitted to never going inside the fast food restaurant to begin with. He just goes through the drive-thru and eats in his car.
In the back of the parking lot with the crackheads.
But it's not like this utopia where when he gets old, he's gonna have like a friend that will go with him to McDonald's and they'll sit and like down coffees all day and like eat McDonald's, for like hours. But I feel like that's just like he sees old people do that and he's like he loves the lifestyle of the elderly, so he like wants to like adopt that in the future.
That is a running theme of some of these awards, is how much he appreciates the lifestyle of the elderly.
He does love the old folks. That's great. As a Korean guy, we respect our elders. Good for you, Tim. Now, I've never hung out in the back of a McDonald's. I've been, in the back of a 7-Eleven across the street from a strip club before, but I've never been in the back of a McDonald's secretly eating my food.
Food delivery. Tim has said he refuses to order food delivery because he might be doing laundry when the food arrives.
Oh my God.
I mean, in today's day and age where you have it all on an app as well, like Uber, where it's like, we'll be there in like 48 seconds.
He ain't ordering from the app. There ain't no fucking way he's doing that shit.
Yeah, I think we're getting to that, aren't we? I think that there's another one about him ordering off of apps, period. But yeah, I mean, that's a pretty insane one. And doesn't he live in an apartment also? Like, wouldn't they be calling when they got there?
Yes. Paul, you had something to...
And there is, like, on every single one of these apps, they will leave it at the door.
Yeah.
And then you'll get a notification that says like, "Hey, your food is there." But the thing is, Tim is like a big time germaphobe, so it's like he wouldn't want even the bag sitting on the floor for even a second. I think that's what it comes down to.
Going to steal it. Yeah, he would be worried that someone was going to nab it. Also, he's like, I'm not leaving food outside of my place.
I don't understand how you can have a diet like that and be germaphobe. Like, I feel like that's not a normal thing.
I mean, it almost seems like his biggest rival should be Yogi Bear. Maybe as a kid that he was walking around stealing his picnic basket. Now he can't leave food unattended at any time, for any moment, because Yogi might pop up and take it from him.
We'll get to the point where he washes bananas with soap a little bit later on.
My God.
Yeah, that's the grandma category. I love the grandma category.
These next two categories are insane.
Corn dog sideways, as Kenny can attest. Tim eats his corn dog sideways and claimed that is the preferred way and common way to consume them, like a piece of corn on the cob.
The safe way. He does it because of safety. Because he doesn't want to jam that stick in his throat.
It's truly insane. Like, it really... Like, there's really not much more to say about this one. It's like, I mean, this one I think is almost, this one should be a shoe-in for this category, really.
The crazy thing is you would think it should be a shoe-in, but there is some more crazy shit down here. Like, I thought the same thing. That's the first thing I saw when I saw the sheet. I was like, corn dog, that's going to win. And then I kept reading, and I was like, wait a second. Wait a second. I don't know, man. I don't know. He said some crazy ass shit this year.
This one might be the most difficult category ever in the history of the Custy Awards. We're still going here. Comic-Con. Tim said it made no sense to him why people would go to Comic-Con, Bronsteter, as obscure characters rather than well-known ones such as Spider-Man or Wolverine.
Well, like, if you're not part of like the subculture of Comic-Cons, I can like understand this take at least a little bit. Like, I don't agree with it, and I think, but like the whole thing about Comic-Cons and fandom of things is like you want to show how in the know you are. But I don't think Tim, because he's not entrenched in that subculture and because he's so ignorant to things that he doesn't really care about, I kind of will give him a pass on this one.
I am not a part of Comic-Con culture. That's not really my bag, but I'm aware.
Yeah, but you're educated on things, then you will look into things that you don't like particularly gravitate towards. He doesn't care. Like, it's not on his radar.
Okay, well, The Master of Disguise was. Tim called The Master of Disguise to be a, quote, good film. The film has a 1% score on Rotten Tomatoes. Tim will quote this movie while we're playing golf, Kenny, and it's outrageous.
Is that the one where dude dresses like a turtle?
Yeah.
Like he's a turtle? I've never seen it, so I don't know.
It's so
I have seen it.
It's so
I have
bad.
seen this
I've never
movie
seen it.
because I love Dana Carvey. And I saw that this movie was getting just completely trashed. And I was like, if I go into this movie thinking of it as satire and knowing that it's really bad, can it be funny? And there are scenes where like there's a whole recurring joke where Brent Spiner, who plays Data on Star Trek, is in the movie, and he just farts a lot. Like that's the whole joke, is that he farts, and like people look at him. It's a terrible movie, honestly. And even watching it from the standpoint of being satire, I still can't really give this one a pass. Like it's like a historically terrible movie that when you bring up terrible movies, people bring up Master of Disguise as being terrible.
Well, I think you probably hit on why he likes it so much. Nothing Tim enjoys more than a fart joke.
Yeah, like that's like one of the recurring jokes of the movie is that Brent Spiner just like he farts. I don't remember who his character was. He was like the villain in the movie. He farts and
Brent
people like
Spiner, is
laugh.
that Data?
Yeah.
Data from
right?
Star Trek.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, just to throw out my knowledge here, you're saying Data is just like Dr. Pulaski did in season 2 when she was an android racist. Because it's Data, not Mr. Data.
It's Data. Yeah.
Ah, okay. I never really watched the show. I just knew about his white ass. That's it.
Yeah,
Very pale.
He ended up playing like 30 characters on Star Trek, all just like descendants of Data. It's weird. Unplugging appliances before leaving your home. Aaron, have you ever done this?
Dude.
No, but I think my grandmother used to do this. Like, if I recall, like I used to stay with her in Florida in the winters occasionally, and if I recall, like she would unplug certain things when she left the house. I think this is another old folks thing where like you know old people have these like things about surge protection, and it can if there's like a storm, it'll destroy your device. Like in modern society, is not an actual concern, but like of course if you're elderly, you don't really get with the times. So like. I've heard of this before, though, but it was nothing I would personally do, and I think you're a crazy person if you do it. So this is another one that I think is fairly high on the list for Tim, although it's not really a take. It's more just one of the weird things that he does.
Do you unplug your TV every time you leave the house, Kenny?
Dude, it would take me. I have like 17 TVs in this house right now. There's like 4 right next to me on this wall, right? And I have the fridge. How long does it take? You would have to leave, like, you would have to be prepared to leave 30 minutes before you actually had to leave.
And you mentioned
Because
the
you would
fridge.
have to-
There's no way he unplugs the fridge because like then your food's gonna get rotten.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
But then of course you can't have like exclusions. Like why would you not unplug the fridge if you're gonna unplug everything? That's the weird thing about this whole unplugging. Yeah.
That is weird. But I mean, like, does he unplug like the alarm clocks? Does he have to reset them every time he comes back home? Like,
yeah, I would think so. Like if you're unplugging the microwave, you have to change the clock.
Hey, this could take a lot. That's why I guess Tim says he's so busy all the time because he's continuously just plugging and unplugging appliances all fucking day. I mean, like, Jesus Christ, that's crazy. Like, this is one of the craziest ones I think. I don't even give a fuck if his grandmother told him to do this shit. Like, this wastes so much fucking time, right? Like, so much time, like, in your life. Like, if you do this every single time you leave the house, you're going to spend, like, years of your life unplugging appliances and plugging them back in and then changing the clocks and resetting everything correctly. Like, this is crazy. This is insane. Like, literally insane crazy.
Maybe
you need to buy, like, gym equipment, too, because you couldn't be like, I'm going to go for a walk today. Like, if somebody said, like, you can go for a walk and get some exercise, but you have to unplug every appliance in your house before you leave. I'm like, I'm not leaving. Staying at home.
Yeah.
And there's been certain times that he's not unplugged something and he's just having a panic attack. Like when he's out doing groceries or whatever it is. He's like, oh my God, I left like my alarm clock plugged in. I think it's crazier that like he unplugs his alarm clock, so he has to reset that thing every single day.
Now, in fairness, who uses an alarm clock unless you're in a cheap
Tim.
hotel?
I think
I'm
he said
sure
he
Tim
has
does.
one. Yeah.
He has a phone.
I think he uses his alarm clock.
Maybe he perpetually lives at a blinking 12. That's the time it always is in Custland.
Yeah. Well, this one, I knew this one was coming, and it had me tricked. I don't smoke that much anymore, right? I needed a cigarette for this one because I can't believe he does this. Like, the amount of time, think about it, that you lose in your life. It's insane.
So it seems like it's a front runner for you, but we're not done yet because we got a lot more here. Retirement home. Tim claimed that a retirement home looked very appealing because the people in the commercial seemed very joyful and happy.
They do always look happy. Like in the signs, when you pass by a retirement home, they always look like they're having the time of their lives. And you think about it, it's like, oh, okay, like it's a bunch of old folks that live together in a condo. Like I can see like how you'd be fooled by that. Now, of course, if you actually read about some of these retirement home situations and how poorly they're treated, then maybe you can see past the facade. But I kind of get it. Like this one, I don't think is a terrible take.
Yeah, but
I don't know, man.
Why
I'm doing
would
a renovation on it? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Pat.
why would they be marketing anything and showing the people being unhappy?
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I agree. But like, I don't think it's the worst take that he like thinks that it looks appealing. Like again, this is like elderly person culture, which Tim like vies for in his life.
So
I would give him a pass on this one.
My great aunt just moved into a retirement facility. She's 97, so she moved in at 97. She fucking hates it. Hates it.
Of course she does.
Yeah. So I'm actually doing our company's doing a renovation at a old person home right now.
You should get Tim to do the drywall for it.
I've been there a couple of times. It is not a happy place, bro. It is not a happy place. It's like dark. It's sort of dingy. And the thing is, like, you got it's weird in Korean culture, right? Because in Korean culture, there basically are no like retirement homes in Korea. Like, family just takes care of the old people. That's just the way it's been. Throughout my mom stays with me 3 days a week, because my dad's gone. So, I take care of my mom. She stays with her brother the other 4 days because of work stuff. But she stays with me 3 days a week. And so you take care of your elders. My grandmother, right? She won't go to she's 90 years old, lives by herself in a condo, about 20 miles south of me. I go see her once, twice, 3 times a month, right? And she's like, don't ever put me in a fucking home.
All right, well, here's my question to you guys, because this is, I think, an important point here. Like, what is it about living in a retirement home that Tim would not appreciate or like? Like, that's the part that we need to think about too, because like you got like all these foods that look like Swanson frozen dinners, foods like of that kind of nature that he loves. He sit in front of a TV all day, would love to do that, and watch network TV shows. Like all of the different things about the retirement homes that I think repel people are things that like would attract a guy like Tim. So that's again why I'm giving him a bit of a pass for this take.
I mean, that's a fair point. That's a very good counter argument.
That is a good point. Really good point.
That's why you have me on the show.
Yeah.
Because I can objectively see things through the lens of Tim.
Heated driveways. Tim claimed it would be ridiculous that heated driveways are not more common and that every new house should have a heated driveway in them. I don't hate the idea. I don't hate the idea of having a heated driveway, but he vastly underestimated the cost of a heated driveway, along with the the installation, the materials, and then the upkeep of having to constantly run this. And he was more or less talking about where we live, where it would be kind of useless to have a heated driveway because we don't really get like an inch of snow or 3 inches of snow. We either get no snow and it rains, which then it's useless, or we get 5 feet of snow, which a heated driveway isn't helping you with anyway. And if anything, it would make it harder to shovel the snow off of your driveway because the bottom is just like that wet snow all of a sudden instead of the dry powdery snow, which is easy to shovel.
As a general contractor, it would be great if everyone got heated driveways because we just did a heated back patio that was 12 by 12 and it was $4,500. 12 by 12 feet. It was $4,500. So I don't know. and we just put tile flooring over top, not asphalt. So I don't know. It's crazy that he thinks it's more people shouldn't do. I mean, if everyone's rich, yeah, sure.
It wasn't until I started listening to the show that I knew that these existed, that this was like a real thing that people had. I had never heard of them before. Like I didn't realize that people owned heated driveways.
And not a lot of people
do. You know anybody that owns one?
I had a neighbor growing up, and they like went out of their way to install it. I never saw them use it. Like they had it.
It just seems like a complete waste of money. Like to me, you'd be better off getting like a roof over your driveway. But you put your cars in the driveway, you're not going to get snow on the ground. You just move your cars out of the way and you snow the rest of it. Or shovel the rest of it. To me, it just seems like a complete and utter waste. But I had never heard of such a thing that anybody owned one until I started listening to this show.
Well, it's a lot like an indoor pool. Do you guys know anyone with an indoor pool that they actually use and that doesn't become like a huge eyesore and a waste of money and a money pit for them?
I think in my life I've been inside of one house that had an indoor pool. I don't know how much use they got out of it. I think it was like a family friend or something, but yeah, I don't know anybody who has an indoor pool aside from condos, of course, but like a homeowner, I don't know.
Yeah, I've been in
Our
one
stadium-
house that had an indoor pool in it, and they may have used it once a year, and it like destroyed that part of their house.
I went in Florida when I was in Florida. I stayed at a few places, and there were indoor pools, and they were pretty nice. We
Why
used
would you
them all
need
the
an indoor
time.
pool in Florida? Like it's hot all
Yeah.
year round.
I know, right? It's weird. I thought it was strange too. Didn't we? Wasn't there an indoor pool at our place when we went to Florida? Right when we went for the DFS Open.
That was
Like,
I
the place that we partied. There was an indoor pool, right? Am I lunching here?
thought that was outdoors.
I think it was indoors.
Maybe.
Maybe it was outdoors. I don't remember. I don't remember much from that weekend.
Like in Canada, I understand getting an indoor pool. Like we bought a house that had a pool already. Like I would never install a pool in my backyard. And this thing, like we use it like I don't know, like 8 weeks of the year, like 9 weeks of the year. Like barely use this thing. Like having an outdoor pool in Canada doesn't make a lot of sense. So I would think that an indoor pool would make more sense, but like I don't know. But heated driveways also in Canada wouldn't make much sense because you use that for like 8 weeks of the year, like 12 weeks of the year,
Yeah.
if that, and you don't use it on select days, right? So just to me, both don't really make a whole lot of sense here.
Hungry man dinners. Tim said that everyone enjoys a hungry man dinner and that they should be a staple of any diet, especially a high sodium diet. I'm guessing that one's that's a very classic Cust take. Here's one that people got very upset about. Bronsteter. Tim said that anyone who uses a computer mouse instead of the trackpad on a laptop must be on dial-up internet for how far behind the times they are.
I use the trackpad, so I mean, like I get it, but I don't fault anybody for using a mouse. Like
Yeah, but you use a trackpad because like you're writing on your computer, like going like this. I do exactly the same thing, but if I'm doing any sort of work on a computer, I need to have a mouse with me.
yeah, see, I don't really need one, but I don't think that they're like dated technology. I just think that like personally, I can do without one. I get it, but I also don't think that this is like something that this is the wrong hill to die on in terms of old technology. Like people still use a mouse. People still have desktop computers. You need a mouse, right? Like it's just a weird take.
Well, it even depends on what I'm doing. Like if I'm doing Photoshop on my laptop, I will hook up the mouse so I can use the mouse so I can actually be precise with what I'm doing.
Yeah, I get it. Like you don't need to sell me on it. I completely understand like the merits of using a mouse. I just personally don't use one, but I don't think it's silly to use one or that it's a dated technology. I just it's just I guess people's preference. But to say that it's something that people don't use, I think is fairly naive.
Well, I would say, Kenny, that it's not so much like if you're just browsing the internet, like who cares? But if you have any sort of work to do on a computer, the mouse is going to beat the trackpad by, I don't know, 50,000%.
I'll let you know right now. I've only used a trackpad. Like I've never used a mouse
But
since I was in high school.
But what do you do on a computer that would require you to
I'm
use?
just putting in numbers, plugging in numbers, writing proposals, stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, so anyone who like works, especially like if you have multiple screens, a mouse is much easier to use than the trackpad because sometimes you have to like go over here and then do it again to get over to this part. Just a mouse makes way more sense, and people were very upset about it. Halloween night. Tim said he would be terrified if someone knocked on his door on Halloween night past 8 p.m.
Just Halloween night, Tim? I mean, really? I think he'd be terrified after 8 p.m. for anybody, right?
That's
I
a
mean,
given.
if we go about how he's acting with his age, you know what I'm saying? Like my grandmother, when I used to live with her, if anyone knocked on the door after 8 o'clock, she said, "Don't answer." I'm like, Grandma, why? I feel like Tim would be the same. I don't think it just makes it for Halloween night.
That's a fair point. Next one. Power Slap on Rumble. Tim claimed Power Slap was an extremely popular event because how often he saw it on TikTok and heard that it was being broadcast on Rumble. You're in the space, Bronsteter. Do you cover Power Slap? Because when we were at Circa for UFC 300, I went to the gym and all the Power Slap guys were staying in the Circa as well, or at least a cohort of them. And they were practicing Power Slap in the gym while I was there, and I almost got hit like 5 times.
Wow,
Dude,
that's
that would have
that's
been
pretty
incredible.
intense. I don't cover Power Slap. When Power Slap had an event, I was at the PFL event because that's mixed martial arts. But yeah, I mean, I guess it does good numbers on TikTok. It has like really insane impressions because it's a sport that's built. It's like I always explain it this way. It's like a reverse engineered sport. You know how like you're watching a game, and when you're watching a game, like you want to watch like the entirety of it, and like you want to see the narrative and all that, and then like you're gonna see the highlights. This is a sport like where the highlights come first. Like it's a sport that you're just like you're building highlights, and like what actually happens in like the match is kind of irrelevant. Like that's how the sport, if you want to call it that, does so well on TikTok for engagement and impressions, is because like if you see somebody that's about to get slapped in the face, like you see somebody winding up, it's like it's really difficult to look away from that. And I think that's why, you know, it does well. Like in terms of the actual numbers for people viewing the event from front to like start to finish, I doubt that they're like even a fraction of what these TikTok impressions get for like the highlights. So I can't really. It's definitely not an extremely popular event if you're looking at it from like a sporting event. You need to watch it from start to finish, but like people love watching the highlights of this thing.
Okay, TaskRabbit, Kenny. Tim claimed TaskRabbit was impossible to use, and most people could not figure out how it works.
Yeah, that's the thing. Don't really know what TaskRabbit is.
It's
Haven't used it, so I couldn't. I guess it's something where you like, if you need help with something,
yeah,
you like type it in, and someone will be like, "I'll help you with this for this
It's
amount
like
of money."
Jiffy, right?
yeah, like I do it
I
for
don't know
people
that.
to cut my lawn.
Ah, okay. So that makes sense. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how hard it is to use. I can't really comment on this. I've never used it.
Paying on an
I
app.
use Jiffy.
Oh,
I use Jiffy for like duct cleaning and like not duct cleaning. What's the one on your roof? Eavesdrop cleaning, and stuff like that. But and it's really easy to use. So Tim just doesn't want to use it because it's an app. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to.
Yeah, just like this one. Tim refuses to pay on the app itself when purchasing food from a restaurant, despite the fact that he would get deals by using the app. He refuses to do that. The NFL referee experience. Tim said the NFL referees were largely too young, and the league would be much better off if they were older and more experienced.
Don't hate this take. I don't really care about it either way. It's like, you know, I don't necessarily disagree with it, but I certainly don't agree with it.
Okay.
I'll give him a pass on this one.
QR code, Kenny. Tim claimed QR codes were impossible to use and should be banned.
This one I don't understand. Like, you just literally point your phone at it and press a button. Like, you don't have to open anything. You don't have to put your credit card in there. You don't have to carry your SIM card with you for some reason at all times. All you got to do is just click it in and you get the menu, right? I don't understand. Because here's the thing, working in a restaurant industry, okay, for years, for decades, the nastiest thing that you will touch in a restaurant is the menu. Like, we clean everything thoroughly, but the one thing that always gets overlooked to clean is the menu. So if you go to a busy restaurant, right? They're seating maybe 60 people, 50 people at a time. You know, they have a big kitchen, okay, for every hour. All right. So that means you're getting 300 different people touching these at least 5 people are touching each menu. Not including the servers, not including the hosts, right? So the QR code for like just cleanliness, just for sanitary reasons, is a great thing, because I will let you know, like I said, the menu is the most disgusting thing that you will touch at a restaurant.
So
Yeah,
what?
I mean that seems fair. That seems. I mean, this is the thing about it, is like the impossible to use part is a terrible take. It being banned is an even worse take. Like, why would they be banned just because you don't want to use it? But at the same time, again, if you're looking at this through the lens of Tim, through like elderly lifestyle stuff that's new and different, like, you understand where he's coming from with this take. So that's why, like, I don't think it's the worst take on this list by far. It's like in the bottom 5 in my opinion, because it's very Tim. You know, it's just, you got to just chalk it up to Tim culture, if you want to, Andrew culture, about him just being afraid of like stuff that old people are also afraid of and hesitant to use.
All right, just give me
Has anybody used the word Andrew culture before? Did I just invent the thing?
I
That's a
mean,
new thing.
you may have invented it. I don't know. I might have to run with that one.
It would loosely translate to like young people that subscribe to like the lifestyles of the elderly, and like, or like covet the lifestyles of the elderly. It would be like being part of like Andrew culture.
Sounds very hipster, which he would both hate yet do
Oh
all
yeah,
the
he
time.
would hate it for sure.
What do you think the favorite is in this category? Is it the corn dogs?
I gotta go
I
corn
think
dog.
I think it's the corn dog, just because of, like you said, like everyone expired. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, like, live at that moment in time. Like, it was like shocking. So I think it would have to be that. But I mean, like, you know, I personally, the fucking turning all the appliances off might just be the craziest, out of even crazier than eating a corn dog like that. But I think the corn dog wins.
Yeah, like if it's his preference to eat them that way, it's like not that egregious. But for him to say that it's like the preferred way to consume them for like people in general, like I've never seen anybody eat a corn dog that way. In fact, it would never even strike me as it would be like if you took a corn, like a cob of corn, and ate it like vertically, like you like took a bite out of the top of it. Like it's that's the equivalent to like how he eats a corn dog.
So I was talking to Tim the other night about us all going to President's Cup in September, Kenny, and because we were talking about like different things, because he was complaining again because I went to a tasting menu 2 weeks ago with my wife, and I invited him to come, and he was like, I can't come. Like, he made a bunch of excuses.
I heard that episode too.
Yeah. So no, that was when my wife and I were like in Aruba. We went to one like locally, not last weekend, the weekend before. So it was really good. And I mean, I'm not one for Italian food. It's not my favorite, but this was excellent. So, but you know, I will go to a tasting menu with food I haven't tried to give it a try. If I don't like it, then then I don't like it. It happens. But I found that going to a tasting menu is very helpful with that. So we said like, yeah, Kenny's gonna like, he said he'd spend $1,000 on a meal for you, and he's like, well, I can't do that. That's too much money. It's like, well, it'd be very insulting if you refused to let him pay for you with this sort of thing. So he's trying to find like excuses to do it. Then he's like,
did not go.
Yeah. And well, then they said like, he brought up to me, he's like, do I get to pick the food for any day of the trip? I was like, well, are you paying for it? He's like, no. I was like, well, then you don't get to pick. I'm sorry.
Well, here's the thing. If we're going to a nice, like one of these restaurants that I'm thinking of, $1,000 is not even going to cover. I mean, depending on how many, I'm guessing we're going to have like 8 to 10 people. So, I mean, $1,000 might cover like 20%, 25%. If we're going to some of these restaurants, and I know Tim hears this and he might be going crazy, but going to restaurants like this is like a culture thing. Like you go there, you experience everything, you try new things. It's really like the one thing everybody can do in the, at least if you have the means, to try and get some other type of culture like into your system, right? You're not going to watch like Italian TV. You don't know what the fuck they're saying unless you're watching like Gomorrah. That is one Italian TV show that I will watch. But it's food, and food brings people together as well. So when it comes to it, I'm gonna make sure we all come together during that trip, have a great meal. Tim, you're gonna have to be there. I'm going to tell you that now, and you're going to have a great time, and you're going to enjoy what you eat. I guarantee it. It's going to be like that time you had Wagyu for the first time. It's going to be eye-opening, and you're going to be happy you tried.
And if you want us to film Cust doing the blind tasting menu, go to Underdog Fantasy right now and use code Mayo so we can make enough money to afford to do all these things. Bronsteter, next time you're out of Ontario, you sign up using code Mayo.
You bet. I'll be outside of Ontario in a couple weeks. Or actually, no, later this week. Is it open in Florida? I'm going to Florida this week.
It is open in Florida. You can play the new Champions series on Underdog and do all the drafts. Best Ball Mania 5 with $1.5 million in a fantasy football draft. Anyone who comes inside the top 40 wins at least $50K, Bronsteter. That could be you.
Now, can you remind me of the promo code again, Pat?
It is promo code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy. And if you're having a bit of confusion about that, you can just hit the description. The link is right down there. And Kenny's giving out winners every week for Underdog. I'm like 50-50 on it, but we're both doing very well. Hopefully you are too. Let's start running through these. Brand new category for the 7th annual Custys, most Cust grandmother-driven decision. So here they are. I'll just run through them and we'll talk about it. Lighting. Tim claimed that he disconnects the power source from every device in his house when lightning comes because his grandmother told him to. Washing bananas with soap. Tim claimed it was, quote, ridiculous to not wash bananas with dish soap before eating them. His grandmother persuaded him, as this was how fruit was normally washed. Shoveling the driveway. Tim claims he is fast at shoveling his driveway because he is faster than his grandmother at it, who is like 90. Boiling water. Tim claimed his grandmother told him that tap water cannot be used to boil water for pasta or other dishes. He says that filtered water must be used. Funny story about that in a second. Cleaning steering wheel. Tim's grandmother claimed one must clean the steering wheel with wipes prior to use on every time you drive the car. Cash. Tim's grandmother has recommended that he only use cash for any financial transaction. Hand-rolled change. Tim's grandmother has recommended that he hand-roll his change at all times and not use any sort of device. Christmas cards. Tim has always collected all of the Christmas cards he has received because his grandmother encouraged him to do this, and now he has like a room full of Christmas cards from over the years. The boiling water thing with the filtered water is one thing, but I have encouraged, like I just had to take a pee break here. People didn't notice here with the quick editing that Paul can do. But I've been drinking 4 to 6 liters of water a day for like a decade now. And it does make me feel a lot better. I have recently encouraged him to do the same thing. And he has started to drink 4 liters of water every day. And he's sticking to it. He feels a lot better. But he refuses to drink tap water with any of it. So he finds it very difficult because he has to fill up his giant bottle out of his filtered water system at home, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why he finds that difficult. But see, that doesn't bother me as much. But the part about boiling water is weird because if there was like tainted water and you boiled it, it would boil that off. Like that's what people used to do back in the day. Is like they would boil water and then they would like refrigerate that water because you would know that like any of the like whatever it was, germs or any of the diseases that could have been festering in the water, by boiling it, you boiled that off. That's the part about it that's kind of weird to me because, like, if this is an elderly person saying this, they would kind of know that. But either way, I just think it's a pretty weird take overall.
Well, the strange part about it is it's not so much that he thinks that it's contaminated, Kenny, the tap water. When asked about tap water, his only response was yuck.
Here's the thing: I don't drink tap water either.
Why?
I will say I don't drink tap water either. I mean, I don't mind cooking with it. I don't mind doing that stuff, but I don't drink it because I'd rather. I'm pretty bad. Like, I just drink bottled water, and so I'm just destroying the environment. I've probably gone through like 150,000 bottles of water in the last like 5 years. It's horrible but that's what I like to drink. I'm not a tap water guy either.
It also lowers your testosterone when you drink out of like bottled water, like plastic bottles.
You know, at this age, it's pretty fucking low. I'll tell you that right now. So maybe I have to make the switch. We'll see.
It's the bananas, right? That's the winner here.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the one. That's the one.
Well,
It's the bananas.
If you look into organic fruit and which fruit you should buy organic and shouldn't buy organic, like if you want to save money, they say that the banana is the one that you don't need to buy that's organic because the peel is so strong that like any sort of chemicals or whatever that would get into a banana are like offset by like the thickness of the peel. So like to have to wash the peel is going to like literally do nothing for what's actually inside of a banana. It's in fact just going to like get soapy substance on your hand. Like I don't understand why. Like, is it because when you're holding the banana, it's been sprayed with something and that's why you need to? Again, this one is just a mind-boggling thing to me. First off, like washing a banana, period, is weird, but washing it with soap is like exponentially weirder.
Yeah, the banana knowledge was solid. The only thing I could think of in my head when you were saying it is science, bitch. Right? It's pretty fucking cool. I didn't know all that.
I can tell you that
that's crazy. Also,
when I worked produce in college, that we would find tarantulas and dead tarantulas in the boxes for the bananas.
Oh. What the fuck? Are you serious?
It was terrifying.
That doesn't surprise me.
That is terrifying. I hate spiders. That's not good. One thing I will say is, again, the first one, the lightning. Again, wasting more time of his life. Unplugging appliances. That's more added time. Like right now, I'm gonna calculate like the amount he'll have to do and the amount of time he loses in his life. By the time we go to a President's Cup, and I'll let him know.
When I was a kid, though, I remember when there was lightning outside, we unplugged. I don't know if we unplugged or we turned off the computer. I think we turned off the computer because if your computer was on and it got hit with lightning, it would like wipe your hard drive potentially, or like your computer fry your motherboard. And I remember that was a thing back in the day that you would do.
I think if you didn't use a surge protector, right? It could do it, or something like that. Yeah, I remember. I think we're the same age here, Aaron. So that does sound very, very familiar.
So I want to move on to the next one. This one's going to be better on the Custys because it's most Cust impression. We'll get Cust to run through these. So it's all one category, but it's not just his voice impressions. It's also his appearance impressions as well. So his impressions this year that were new were Pauly Shore, John Travolta, Richard Nixon, Wilford Brimley, Basil Marceau, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. But the two, in terms of appearance, is Mimi from the Drew Carey Show and Renee from Storage Wars, which I think is a dead ringer for Cust.
Are you running through these? Do we get to watch them, or are they queued up?
No, just he'll do them on the show.
Oh, okay.
Listen, you can Google Renee from Storage Wars right now and tell me what you think. I'll wait.
And what are we looking at here? We're looking at somebody who like looks like Cust.
Yes.
Does he do an impression?
No, his impression is that he looks just like this guy.
Yeah, he really does. I mean, it's pretty close. There's
Holy
certain
shit.
pictures where it really looks like him.
What?
Yeah, there are
That
some where
does
it looks like it's actually him.
It does.
This is pretty freaky, actually.
Yeah,
That's
I've never heard of
crazy.
this guy before.
he refuses to
And of
acknowledge.
course, Mimi from the Drew Carey show, I know.
Yeah, he just put Cust in a wig. He looks
Yeah.
just like Mimi.
Yeah, that I can see as
Oh,
well. Yeah,
that's him right there, right?
Yeah.
That looks like Tim, I mean, basically.
Most
that guy from Storage Wars. I mean, that's
Never watched
yeah,
the
if you-
show, but now I have to agree, right?
yeah.
And his Wilford Brimley and Richard Nixon impressions are basically the same impression. Like they're
Those
not
two are my
far off.
favorite, though.
All of his
agree.
impressions are the same impression.
They're all
Yeah,
his
for the most part, they're all like the same.
they're all his Walter Matthau, basically.
which is basically just his Richard Nixon.
He's like, I'm Wilford Matthau. I'm Richard Nixon. Wilford Brimley, he adds a little bit of like the southern accent. Like, I'm Wilford Brimley. But that's the only differentiating trait.
Most Cust story.
Well,
Tim was too impatient to wait to heat up food, Kenny, so he ate frozen mozzarella sticks.
this is another one that I just check. I don't know. You can list them off because all of them should win.
Tim claimed before McDonald's monopoly began, Bronsteter, that he toured all of his other favorite fast food chains so he could say goodbye to them for now until monopoly season concluded.
I've got to say, Tim's like a pretty loyal guy. I kind of like, that's like a trait in him that I kind of like. So, while this is, of course, crazy, and it is a very Cust story, it's a little bit charming that he did this, in my opinion. From a Cust standpoint.
I just listened to this, like literally right before we started the show. So it's incredibly fresh in my mind, and Jeff's reaction might have been the best. If you want to go back and watch that show. Oh man, it was hilarious. That one is insane as well. Just saying goodbye to all your fast food friends. Just go to play Monopoly for a month. That was a great episode, I have to say.
Tim regularly decorates his house for the holidays up to 2 months in advance of that holiday taking place, Kenny.
I've seen that happen. I've dated a couple of women like that. Never a man. Never seen a man do that, but to each its own. That just doesn't seem that wild to me, especially nowadays in our crazy culture where these holidays are just so commercialized and stuff like that. So I don't really hate that one. That one's a minor one compared to every single other one in this category.
Fairly minor, but I think the weird thing about it is Tim doesn't really host people or have people over that
No.
often, it seems. So he just kind of does it for himself to get this weird enjoy for months in advance to look
I don't
forward
hate
to
that.
these holidays. It's very much like if a kid owned a house, like Pee-wee's Playhouse kind of thing. But I digress. I still think I kind of agree with Kenny. That's kind of low on the
my.
totem pole here.
The next one's my favorite.
Tim was
Say it, Pat.
Tim was stunned at how cheap it was to get his keys fixed. He tipped the cashier due to his delight with the service, and then his grandmother gave him a meat thermometer in return for him going to cut the keys.
See, I read this wrong, and I thought that the cashier gave him the meat thermometer. I just thought it was weird.
No,
Does she have parting gifts at the counter that she just gives to customers?
he had to go get keys cut for his grandmother. He thought it was going to be like $100 to get keys cut. It was like $2. So he left.
Yeah, it's less than $10.
Grandma was hyped, so gave him a fucking meat thermometer. I can't get over this one. Oh my god, dude! There's so many layers to this one, right? I mean, just first off, just going and thinking that it costs $50 to get your keys done. That's the first thing, right? And then to go I go to Home Depot, there's a machine, you put in $1, $2, and you get your thing. And so when he said he got it for $4.36, was hype, right? Went back to his grandma and he was like, "Oh, let me pay for it." He's like, "Oh, don't worry, grandma, I got you." And he was hype. And then he gave him a meat thermometer. Yeah, that's the other layer of the story. Why a meat thermometer? Now, here's the thing. It has great uses. I mean, it's very, very useful. You have to be able to figure out that your pork or your chicken is 165 degrees in the middle. But how is that the trade that you give off? Does his grandma have just extra ones of these all over the place in the kitchen? Can you here, just go ahead and take that one? My dad had one of those when it came to bottles of Johnny Walker Blue. He had a shit ton of those in his closet to give away his gifts, and I always
Nice
stole
party
the
gift.
hell out of them. I definitely stole them all the time. But anyways, like why a meat thermometer? Like the whole story of this is one of the best that I've heard throughout the entire time that I've done. I've listened to Cust Corner. I've listened to every single episode, everything that Tim has ever said. And this story was just incredible. It was incredible. The meat thermometer just got me.
See, this next one is the one where I like laughed out loud when it happened on the show.
You
it's not,
DM'd
like,
me.
In hindsight, not crazy. I DM'd you about this one.
Yeah, just the moment, just because I put out the show. You listen to them right away. So I get the DM from Bronsteter because Tim thought that Venmo was a method of moving cryptocurrency and refused to download the app. That's not exactly what he said, though. He just thought that Venmo was cryptocurrency.
Yeah, like Venmo came up, like somebody Venmoing somebody, and he did it like his ha 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 Tim laugh. He was like, I don't deal with cryptocurrency scams, or like he just like talked about it so matter of factly, like he knew what it was, and like how absurd it was that he would like invest in like the crypto market in order to like send money to somebody. Like he was just incredulous over the fact that somebody mentioned Venmo and him Venmoing someone, which I just thought was, again, it was more his reaction than anything else in terms of the story. But him just like being so confident in something they had no idea about, and then B talking about it like it was this big crypto scam. I just thought it was very funny because we live in Canada, so mind you, we don't have Venmo here, so it's not like as common of a thing. But like just his reaction to it was gold.
Paul was out for a week, and producer Megan, who produces Paul's show with Cody the Dogger Pass podcast, produced an episode of the Spread Pick show this year. And Tim was explaining how he lives his day-to-day life, and producer Megan was very confused about multiple items Tim was doing throughout the course of the day. Tim instinctively apologized for how he lives his life.
I mean, as he should.
I remember her telling the producer how to guess what his age would be. Right? I just thought that was hilarious. That was a good one as well.
Screen mirroring, one of your favorites, Kenny. Tim discovered screen mirroring on his phone and assumed it had just come out.
Well, the thing about this one is it wasn't necessarily that. It was the way you guys played him up, like around. That's what made that hilarious. Like him thinking that he had actually found something that Pat and Geoff like didn't know about in the technology realm, right? And the way you guys played it, in the way Paul came in at the end to try and scare him, I just thought that was like, I know you guys don't like script anything, but like that was literally like a comedy show, like something you see like on a skit, like in some type of, you guys have the Canadian one, I forget, the Canadian SNL
Kids in the Hall
that you have. I forget what that's called,
FTV,
but like some type of skit show like that, right? It was hilarious, that whole thing. Now, the actual thing itself, whatever. I mean, I am not a technology guy either, so when it comes to tech shit, I can't really blame Tim. But the story of that, the way it was presented, was quality content.
Yeah, I listened to this one fairly recently also, and like Kenny said, like the delivery of this is like the best part of it, because you had Tim kind of explaining how to do it also. Like he was like, what you do is you take your phone and you swipe down from the side, and I thought that was like one of the better parts of it. Was
really?
like him explaining how to do it, like to the noobs.
Do you, Aaron? I have to ask you. Do you keep birthday cake in your freezer so you can break it out for company if they ever come over?
I have children, and we still don't keep any sort of cake. Usually it would probably get eaten, probably is the main reason, but we don't have any cake in our freezer. There are a lot of other things that you can keep for, and Tim's a Costco guy. Like you can just go to Costco and buy all kinds of like hors d'oeuvres and things like that, and you throw them in the air fryer and they're ready in like 10 minutes. Like that's probably the better way to go. But yeah, him going and buying like a slab cake from the supermarket and freezing it for when, and also when they arrive, how do you thaw that thing? Like what's the process there? Because you
just let it
in
out.
the microwave. They
No, you
defrost
just
it
leave
in
it
the
out
microwave?
before they come.
No,
And of
but
course, I've
it's
done it
but it's
because
impromptu.
I have a cake in my freezer.
It's-
Yeah, he talks about it like it's impromptu.
Yeah.
Like someone's here. Oh, let's break out the cake.
The guy eats frozen matzo sticks. I'm sure you can eat frozen cake as well.
It's true. Feinberg's biggest rival. To talk to Geoff about this, he will claim that none of these people are his rival. Geoff doesn't think that he has a rivalry with anyone. It might be a one-sided rivalry, but Geoff just doesn't think any of this stuff kind of goes. Damar Hamlin is on this list. Geoff's sister is on this list. Made-for-TV scientists. Geoff has demanded made-for-TV scientists apologize to the bats for the genesis of COVID. This was a very big sticking point for him at one point. Jay Monahan. Geoff accused PGA Commissioner Jay Monahan of faking illness and disrespecting the legacy of 9/11 by his dealings with Live Golf and the DP World Tour. Brandon Staley, who he compared to Lyle Lanley, the monorail salesman, and hoped that he got a yeast infection for Christmas, according to Geoff. Austin Eckler, who Geoff claimed on a podcast that Eckler had spent way too much time on podcast himself lately, and he hopes that the Chargers cut him. I do think that the running Damar Hamlin stuff was the funniest thing of the year, and he was proven to be right about this, because Joe Flacco ended up winning Comeback Player of the Year, not Damar Hamlin. But I do think that Geoff's sister, Bronsteter, takes the cake on this one. Maybe the frozen cake, I don't know. Maybe it needs to be microwaved, but Geoff refusing to take his nephew to that game really set the bar pretty high.
Yeah, Jeff's sister was a classmate of mine in elementary school, so I know Jeff's sister, and she's a good friend of my sister's. So like, there's some connection here. Like, it's amazing that him and his sister are like siblings because they're so different. Like, they look kind of similar, so you can tell that they're like are from the same gene pool, but like the way that they live their lives are very, very different. So like, I kind of see what the disconnect is there. But yeah, it has to be Damar Hamlin. Like, Damar Hamlin, like that was like a season-long debacle that like Geoff ended up being vindicated on as well, which I thought was great. Staley, I don't think got it as bad as Anthony Lynn when Anthony Lynn was the coach. Like, I feel like Geoff was a lot harder on Anthony Lynn. Things turned south really quickly with Staley, whereas Anthony Lynn was more of like a slow bleed. There was like just a moment in time where Geoff like just turned on Brandon Staley and it was over. Like, the honeymoon was over, and he that's when he started to like really ether Brandon Staley. But I feel like Staley got off a little easy compared to Anthony Lynn. I got to go with Damar Hamlin as like the strong favorite in this category.
Paul, did you have something to say?
I think it's Jay Monahan, and I don't think it's even remotely close because that's the only person on this list that, like, Geoff actually wanted him to die when he got sick. Whereas Damar Hamlin, he just wasn't impressed that he came back to life on the field.
See, and he claimed on like golf shows because I don't watch the golf shows.
Yes,
he claimed that like
the Jay Monahan.
And, like, I remember the line like it was yesterday. He's like Joe Flacco in football terms was more dead than Damar Hamlin. It's just like, oh my god. But yeah, Jay Monahan, he actually wanted to die, so I think he probably still thinks that.
I don't like to hear that Geoff.
The thing about Jay is he's not the only one, so this is not like a unique point of view. There's plenty of people that think the way he thinks about Jay Monahan right now.
I don't like to hear that Geoff's sister isn't like Geoff. I just envisioned that Geoff's sister was exactly like Geoff and was just very crazy passionate about just a completely separate set of things, like some sort of art or music or food.
I don't
or something.
know. Maybe she is. Like, if I asked my sister, she'd give that answer because they're like friends. But like, I knew Geoff's sister when she was like, we were in the same class together when she was like 8 or something. Like, that's how long I've known Geoff's sister for, like, sort of. But like Geoff's sister and my sister are actually like very good friends. So maybe she is passionate about different stuff that's like not the Chargers. But like, I have never seen anything that would lead me to believe that.
Best Cust Corner. You can go back and get these on the Cust Corner feed. I'm updating that soon with a brand new, trying to catch up the entire catalog. But all the old ones are up there, and all of these ones are up on the Mayo Media Network YouTube channel right now. Cust Corner 41 is, and there are more compilations this year. I think there was 2 of them that were like new, and then we did compilations for the rest of them of the segment of Cust Corner throughout the year. So 41 is reservations, elevator operators, chip dip, and customer service, and cooking chicken in NyQuil. Cust Corner 42 is McDonald's Monopoly, bingo, craft beer, dry shampoo, garbage bags, Halloween, and Elon Musk. Cust Corner 43, Black Friday, backup phones, express lanes, potlucks, mini cans, and app updates. Cust Corner 44 was Cust Dream Home. Chicken Big Macs, portion sizes, tipping, and heated driveways. That's a runaway winner. Cust Corner 45, F1, fast planes, supermarket pennies, and sidewalks. Cust Corner 44 is the runaway winner here.
I've got to say,
it's the only one I had checked.
Yeah, I think Cust Corner 44 is the best Cust Corner ever. Like, I think if you took all of them and made a list, like, I think 44 is like the godfather of like the Cust Corners. It's like, I think it's just, it has a little bit of everything. And I mean, the Cust Dream Home segment might be like the greatest Cust segment that this great network has ever produced.
That's the one we'll be remembered for. Cust Corner 44. We're almost at Cust Corner 50. And really, we are at Cust Corner 50 because before I did, you just call them their own standalone ones. It would be like 31A, 31B, 31C in doing the compilation. So we're probably well over 50 as it is anyway, but maybe we have to do a
44, also a very cursed number in Chinese culture. So it kind of goes with the curse. So I like that kind of tie-in as well.
Is 44 more cursed than 13?
It depends on the culture. It is if you're Chinese.
I thought 13 was a Chinese thing too.
I think it's good luck, isn't it? 13. Oh no, well 13 for Jewish people is good luck, but I think 4 is like 13 4 means like death.
No, 13. No, they don't have 13th floors of hotels for this specific reason. It's bad luck.
But I don't think it's a Chinese thing. I think that's
I think that's an American thing.
Yeah, that's like an American thing.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think.
Why is number 13 cursed? Let's see. In the number 13 may be associated with some famous but undesirable dinner guests. In Norse mythology, the god Loki was the 13th to arrive at the feast at Valhalla, where they're having the PGA Championship, where he tricked another attendee into killing the god of Balder. In Christianity, Judas, the apostle who betrayed Jesus, or Jesus as many call him, was the 13th guest at the Last Supper. So I guess there's lots of things.
Yeah. In Chinese culture, 4, like people that are Chinese won't buy houses that have 4 in the address. Like that's how deep of an unlucky thing it is. The number 4. It means like it translates to death in some sort of way. So it's a very, very unlucky number.
Same
as Cust Corner 44, very unlucky.
Nah, number 13 is the card of death in tarot cards.
Okay.
Oh, and there is an actual term for the fear of the number 13. It's called triskadiacophobia. Wow.
We should see what Cust Corner 13 was and go back and see if that one was also like a very like strong one. Because
I'm doing that tonight.
All right. Let us know. DM the chat.
Yeah, Cust Corner 13. I mean, I can effort that pretty easy. Let's see. Cust Corner 13. The show has just turned into me Googling things. Let's see. Cust Corner.
I don't mind it.
Yeah, it's week 13. Cust Corner 13 is best type of chicken wing, hotels and tiny shampoos, steak and eating finger foods.
Okay, the whole stealing of the hotel stuff might have started there. That one's been a running one for a while.
So we have
didn't a lot of hotels stop doing that, right?
Yeah, they did.
And
they have the big
you blamed him.
This one, oh man,
that.
We used to be so efficient with our Cust Corners. This one's only 46 minutes long, and we have 8 topics: eating finger food with a knife and a fork, drumstick versus flat chicken wing, Gatorade versus Powerade, the best type of nuts, how many Cokes Tim drinks in a day, municipalities banning straws, hollowing out bagels, hotels getting rid of tiny shampoos, the best way to cook steak, and the 2-line pass in hockey. Cam is on this one.
All right.
The final category, most insane person of the year. I think this is Tim's best chance since that year that we tricked him into thinking that he actually didn't win.
I do remember that.
There's a chance like Geoff wins this year, I think.
I don't think so. I mean, every chance that Tim had to like kind of make up ground, he squandered so quickly that I just feel like this is not the year. Maybe it'll be next year because Geoff does seem to be getting like, more and more crazy as time goes on. But like Tim then will like level up as well. Like he'll go up like 2 levels for every 1 level that Geoff goes up. So I still feel like, Geoff has some ground to make up before he is able to win most insane person. Unless people are just getting bored, right? Like if people are just getting bored of the same person winning every year.
Well, I think the difference this year. Oh, go ahead, Pat. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, Bronsteter's right. It all comes down to voter apathy. But I do think that enough people have enough good sense out there to not just gift. Like, if Geoff deserves to win, Geoff deserves to win. And this was I don't think this was the year, but maybe it will be. I don't know what the results are. Those are, PricewaterhouseCoopers, a.k.a. Rob McIntyre, has all the results. He doesn't tell them to me until the day we do the Custys. So I have no idea. I don't want to know. But if people think that it would be funny for Geoff to win over Cust, that is the wrong answer. Because it would be fucking insufferable if Cust ever lost.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Geoff this year is it was sort of dark, right? The stuff that he was talking about that was sort of wild, like the whole Damar Hamlin thing in the beginning. Yes, he was definitely right about it, but in the beginning, I mean, it was still just a couple of months after it happened, and he was talking some wild ass shit about Damar and the Bills, and so that was sort of dark. And then the whole thing with his nephew, right? Not going to the game because he's so angry at his team that he won't take his nephew to see like his favorite football team play. And the game after he told me he was going to, pretty dark, hilarious, great content. I find it amazing, but it's sort of dark, right? You know, when you think about it, it sort of sticks in your head more than like what the craziness was in prior years. I mean, I don't remember. He might have done crazier shit in previous years, but these sort of just stick in the mind a little bit longer, just because of like the whole nature and the tenure. I made that word up. The whole nature of that, topic. And yeah, so I think it's going to be close. I think Tim wins, but I think if any year it's going to happen, this is probably the year.
Also, early nominee for next year for Feinberg rival Ivy League schools. Like that's got to be on the list for next year.
Oh, the guy is furious. You don't even know the DMs.
I missed this one. I'm late to the party.
The DM game is strong for Ivy League schools. What do you think? We don't have all the photos to throw up on the screen right now, but for best Photoshop, did you guys have a favorite Photoshop from the year?
Neapolitan. Like Neapolitan to me is like far and away the best.
Really?
Yeah, that one was great. I like the Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, I like the. I like the ice hockey one. I thought that one was the funniest.
Also, Tim with the generic air fryer commercial magazine. He looks like he's like on meth with like the haircut. That one's pretty funny.
I mean, the Geoff as Trump, like
it looks so real.
It does look real. He looks just like there. It is right there. Like that one is amazing, and Geoff loves it. Geoff might change this to his profile picture.
That one's pretty amazing.
He is a Rumble man, right? He is
a
Rumble man. So
biggest snub I feel like is this one though.
Yeah, it's because you didn't.
It's the apologize to the bats.
Yeah, Geoff and his brethren. All these people, Bronsteter, are very upset at Ivy League schools.
Oh yeah, I'm furious about the Ivy League schools.
Just too much wokeness. Can't have that much
Exactly.
woke. Can't be that woke. It's going to trigger Geoff. You can't handle it. That will do it for the Custy Awards preview show. The Custy Awards will be coming soon. We did the live debate. You can check that out. Code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy to get yourself that deposit match and to support this show. Like I said, if you want the filming of Cust trying all these foods he doesn't like, use code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy. All right. Kenny, you are on Mayo Media Network every Monday evening. And Bronsteter, you're on Sportsnet TV, and I'm sure you're all over their webpage and their app and everything like that, covering mixed martial arts, primarily the UFC as well. But I was trying to think about I want to do some Cust Corners here because I'm going on vacation for a little bit in the summer. And usually Cust Corner is a great show to fill in for when I'm gone to have new content. Should I have Cam back soon? Cam hasn't been on a Cust Corner in a very long time.
Just have Cam on as much as possible. Just have him on any show as much as possible. The betting show is amazing. He's hilarious. What's the show he did from the hotel room the other day? That was extremely good content. I laughed the whole time.
Yeah, with
his girlfriends behind him handing him Coors Lights.
Yeah, he had claimed he had been up for over 24 hours. Not shocking. Seeing them there. Although I will say, if you ever want to go on a diet, ask Cam whatever he's doing. Dude's dropped like 80 pounds.
Oh, wow, good for him.
Yeah, he looks thin.
But I always wonder with Cust Corner, like, are we wasting Cam by putting him on a Cust Corner?
No, I don't think so. Because there's like the occasional time where he like agrees with Cust, which I always find to be like interesting. Because Cam's also kind of an odd guy. Like he has a lot of interesting takes as well and an interesting worldview. So you take two people with like strange worldviews and put them together, it's always great content.
But what I'm saying is, like, do we just spin off Cust Corner and just do the same show but with Cam as well and like weird things that he has on the go, and then we get double the amount of content, and then we get like another straight man. Like Garion has always been very good as the guest. Kenny, you were really good as a guest. Raza was excellent as it was the only time I've ever seen Ben mad at anything in my life.
I do remember that one.
Like you get those reactions from people that you don't normally expect it from. So I want to hear from you in the comments about the type of guest, or just name the person that you would like to see on. Bronsteter, would you ever want to be on one? Because Pizzola is like, I asked him if he wanted to do it and he wasn't sure, because I feel like he's sort of the right personality. I feel like he would just egg Cust on the entire time.
I feel like I would turn into like Barbara Walters and just start grilling him. Like I feel like the journalist in me and the interviewer in me would come out, and I would just try to like get to the bottom of why he feels a certain way, because that's the part about the show that I enjoy, is like trying to like get into his mind and understand why he believes things so strongly in a certain way. Like I'm just very curious about him. I feel like that's the approach that I would take, is I would just kind of ask follow-up questions to a point where it might even get annoying for the people listening, because I would really want to get to like the very core of his beliefs.
Interesting.
I would watch that.
Well, Kenny, we'll have you back on for one this summer, I'm sure. So start coming up with some ideas for topics you want to ask about Tim too. Maybe something crazy that you do that you and Cust can agree on. Like I didn't realize you were.
Well, here's the thing: if you could do it after Montreal and I get to meet him, that might be even better.
Or we can.
I'm just going on conjecture here. You
know what? Maybe that's something that we'll do in Montreal. We're there for like 6 days. Maybe we'll like bank 2 Cust corners.
Yeah, you should do it that way in person. Hilarious. Like it's always going to be better in person.
Yeah,
of course.
And we'll have the whole room of everyone there as well, because I think, like you said, there's like 8 to 10 of us going. Cam's going to be there, I think.
Oh, wow.
So, all right. That will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. At Kendo VT on Twitter. Are you at Aaron Bronsteter on Twitter? Just straight up? No, like, weird initials after? Just at Aaron Bronsteter?
Straight up. At Aaron Bronsteter.
And that's with the E, not double A, right?
Yeah. No, it's double A.
Double A. Okay, yeah. Okay, that makes sense then. All right, yeah. At Aaron Bronsteter, at the PME on Twitter, sub to Mayo Media Network, code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy, and I will see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!